This changes everything. And yeah, I know. 99.99% of the time when a YouTube video claims to be covering a bit of video game news that quote-unquote changes everything, it's complete another horse plop. Just clickbait to get you emotionally engaged into thinking something dramatic has happened in your favorite game when it just hasn't. It's got a patch or something. You know, the latest patch has added a new kind of hat that you can wear, and it changes everything, I promise. Just leave. Just leave the planet Earth, you vapid, useless, pointless excuse for a content creator. Stop doing that. It's so stupid. But hey! Hello again, I am Blunty, and today there is something new that does legitimately change everything. Well, everything within a specific subset of the things we're talking about, and that is VR gaming. Now, what you're looking at here is me just faffing around in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, except you've probably noticed by now it looks a bit weird, doesn't it? And that's because I'm playing it in VR, and I don't mean I'm playing it on a virtual cinema screen inside a VR environment. I mean I'm in VR, as in completely immersed by the world of Star Wars. Wherever I look, there's Star Wars stuff. My real-world face is now the game camera, and I'm seeing everything at scale, at perspective, and in a 360-degree, completely immersive 3D. But that is not the changes everything thing. Pretty much ever since the current generation of consumer VR has been around, there's been mods to do exactly this, to at least partially convert traditional flat-screen games into a VR experience. Or at least VR adjacent. There are various levels of success with mods like that. But they were all made on a per-game basis, a specific VR mod for a specific game. You have to download and install much like any other mod. This, though, what this is doing, what I am doing right now, this is genuinely new. This is UEVR. As of today, it is in public beta. And what it is not a mod, but a truly universal tool that enables properly immersive VR in all games that are made with Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 5. And that means literally thousands of games, both already out there and on their way, just became VR games. The list of games that have been already community tested and rated for their performance and compatibility and experience with this tool is already closing in on 700. 667 if you want to be really specific. But of course that will continue to grow and grow rapidly in the coming days. This tool is being created by a person called Praydog. It is available for free, although they do have a Patreon if you want to support their work on this, because it has been a tremendous amount of work, I imagine. And like I said, it is not a mod that you have to install per game. It is a little application designed to be pretty much click and go. It's early days yet, and the UI is a little bit complicated, but the goal is to eventually make it so easy pretty much any idiot can use it, including automatically downloading community presets for settings known to create a good experience in any specific game. It doesn't do that yet, but right now you can still manually download and install presets made by the community or community members, or you can just set up a whole bunch of settings for yourself and fine-tune your experience to your personal liking. But on the basic level, it should pretty much just work with a click without too much faffing. And it is surprisingly easy to use. There's really not much to it. Well, not much to it on our end, under the hood. I'm sure there's quite a lot to it, but as a user, all you got to do is you download the program, which doesn't even need to manually install into Windows, by the way. It's just a standalone app that runs right from whatever directory you put it in. But you run it, you run your game, and then once the game is up and running, you tab out to UEVR, you slap a button to inject the VR wizardry in, you give it a few moments, and bam, you put on your VR headset and go. It truly is that seamless. It fully supports full 6 degrees of freedom, full stereoscopic 3D in several modes, and some games will need, at the very least, this setting tweaked for it to work properly. But it does use the native Unreal Engine stereo rendering system, so it's pretty damn efficient and highly compatible. It supports both OpenVR and OpenXR runtimes, again for extensive compatibility, and you might find some games run better with one or the other, just like VR native games can tend to do if you've dug deep enough into the VR hobby to come across those terms before. And remarkably, it has automatic handling of most in-game UIs, so they're correctly projected into 3D space and can be either set to stay in place relatively or follow your gaze around. Some games can even have 3DoF motion controls, so for first-person shooters, as an example, you can use your VR controllers to aim your weapons just like a native VR shooter. And if you've ever used a VR mod for a first-person shooter game that keeps the weapon nailed to your look direction as if you're playing on a flat screen, you'll know what a godsend that is, because the other way is a kind of miserable experience most of the time. In the right games, it will even do room scale 6DoF movement, moving the player character in 3D space as you yourself move through your own play space IRL, just like a regular room scale VR game. I've only given it a brief go so far in a couple of games myself, but it's really remarkable, and I had to make a video about it just immediately to let you guys know and start playing with it. There's a few issues I've hit so far. It's a beta, so I was expecting nothing less, but the nature of using VR controllers means you have to use shortcuts and macros and things like that for the D-pad, for example, which didn't seem to work for me in Jedi here, and that's an issue, because that's how I open crates to get stuff, and, you know, also how I need to heal. So I'm going to need to do some fiddling to get that working properly if I want to keep playing like this. And the button layout, of course, takes some getting used to, because you've got 2 buttons on either hand instead of all 4 buttons under one thumb. But for the most part, it does work pretty damn well. I did also hit a weird rendering bug, where in a specific environment, Cal would kind of fizz out into a blurry schmear. Not game-breaking necessarily, but very, very distracting. And in Grounded, one of the first-person games I tried, I was disconnected from the player model, so if I moved my head in 3D space, say I leant backwards in my chair, I would see my own headless player character. And as far as I understand how this all works, there should be a way to fix this to make it work properly, but I also hit a bug, if you'll pardon the pun given the context of this particular game, where I could no longer bring up the settings menu overlay in-game for UEVR, so I couldn't make the necessary changes to my settings to test them. Again, all first impressions and beta and sort of day one, hour one, yada yada yada, but the fact that this little app just works as seamlessly as it does already is just magical. Again, in literally any Unreal Engine 4 or 5 game, this should simply work at a base level. No mods, no fuss, no hoop jumping, just click the button and possibly spend a couple of minutes fine-tuning some settings to your personal taste, or download a pre-made settings pack from the community, and you're away. You are deep in a fully immersive 360-degree 3D world of your favorite game. It's pretty amazing, right? Of course, it will break some games too, because game designers use a fixed camera perspective to hide things from the player sometimes, or rely on it for puzzles or something, but hey, it's all fun and games. Of course, a tool like this will not play nice with anti-cheat systems, because it does the same kind of things that cheat programs do. It injects itself into the game to change stuff. And that is exactly the kind of behavior that anti-cheat programs look for. Maybe at some point in the future it could be whitelisted on some of the major ones, but for right now, no. So abolish your dreams of using this in competitive multiplayer games for the most part. But yeah, you want to keep an eye on this project, I think. It's kind of genius, and while not every game will be better in VR, or even good in VR really, or even practical in VR, for those games that are, the extra sense of immersion can be really nice, and being able to do it this easily is amazing. Like with Fallen Order here, some of you new to VR might automatically think of VR as a first-person only experience. It's kind of the natural assumption for VR. But that is not all there is in VR, and I have played some bespoke third-person platformer games before, like Adventure Time, Magic Man's Head games, and Lucky's Tale, both worth a go if you haven't come across them before, by the way. Those were both made specifically for VR, and both used a third-person camera perspective to control a character, and they work really, really nicely. This experience is surprisingly close to that. I was genuinely shocked how well a third-person action platformer like Jedi here worked, and I didn't even have to fiddle with a single setting except to change the stereoscopic mode as recommended by the testing logs. So yeah, genuinely exciting, and I dare you to challenge me on the title of this video, because a tool like this really does change everything when it comes to playing non-VR games in VR. I've done it before the old ways, with bespoke mods or using 3D shaders and tricks with reshade and the like, and nothing comes close to the speed and ease and effectiveness and capabilities of this tool. It literally does change everything. Won't change my mind on that. So give it a go. Let me know how it went. Let me know what games you tried, what games you would like to try with this. And while you're doing it, thank you for watching. I am Bloody. Thank you as always to the patrons that's scrolling up above there, who's above and beyond support. I deeply appreciate, and I will catch you next time.
I can't hit